Eyes on the Prize, episodes 3 and 4 by Thomas Anderson IV. The Nashville sit-ins happened in 1961. These sit-ins were mostly comprised of an interracial group of people, and the reason for these sit-ins was because of the Jim Crow laws that restricted black people from eating at certain lunch counters in the South. Basically, the people protested this by sitting at lunch counters in downtown Nashville, where they were subjected to verbal abuse, as well as being assaulted by white onlookers, and they were also arrested by police. Nashville, being that it was in the South, was known for its segregation policies in public accommodations, and that was the reason why many students at a historically black college such as Fisk University decided to take part in said protests of Jim Crow. In May of 1960, after the sit-ins, the mayor ordered downtown stores to integrate their lunch counters, but it wasn't until the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was signed when downtown Nashville became officially desegregated. The Freedom Riders. Now, the Freedom Riders were also made up of a group of integrated students, and these students were part of a group called CORE, the Congress of Racial Equality, made up of one particularly known person, John Lewis, who was a representative from the state of Georgia. Basically, what CORE did before the Freedom Riders is they actually participated in sit-ins in Greensboro, North Carolina, at downtown stores similar to the students in Nashville. And they were successful at getting the downtown stores in Greensboro integrated as well. This time, however, CORE decided to set out on an interstate trip with a group of students to defy racial segregation on the interstate. And basically the result is, while they were in Alabama, Bull Connor, who was the fire chief of Birmingham, Alabama, warned gave the Ku Klux Klan a heads up and essentially allowed for the Ku Klux Klan to get a jump start in attacking the bus, which they did by firebombing it, and then, of course, beating the other students as they exited the bus. Eventually, the Freedom Waters decided to finish the trip after everything went smooth, after they recovered from their injuries. And when they left Montgomery, where they were stationed, they were protected by the National Guard. And as soon as they got to Jackson, Mississippi, they were arrested, but this time peacefully. There was, as described in the video, there were no protests, but it was just police there to arrest them, which they did get arrested. Eventually, it was ruled that interstate segregation on Greyhound buses was illegal, and all interstate buses were forced to integrate because it violated the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause. The Birmingham Campaign, which happened in the spring of 1963, was led by the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the SCLC, which is mostly known as an organization that Martin Luther King was a leader of. And the SCLC's goal was to integrate the city of Alabama in this situation, the city of Birmingham, Alabama in this situation. Birmingham, Alabama was described as being a very segregated town and was referred to as being the most segregated town in America by Martin Luther King. So that May, students began protesting in downtown Birmingham by walking out of school and walking to downtown Birmingham, where they were met with water hoses, dogs were sicked on them, and they were arrested. Now, all of this was done at the order of Bull Connor, who was the, like I said, fire chief head at the time. And TV was able to show the images of these black students being arrested, by the hundreds, put into police paddy wagons and hauled off to prison, which shocked America, as it should have. A few months later, after those images revealed truthfully how horrifying the situation was to a lot of America, the March on Washington was organized in August 1963, where an integrated crowd of approximately 250,000 went on to march for jobs and an end to racism against black people. This was obviously when Martin Luther King gave his famous I Have a Dream speech, and the march's popularity, it's televised, it being televised, as well as Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, helped to pass the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which made segregation in any race, any public accommodation illegal, and it also allowed for the um, Selma movement to begin shortly after the passing of the Civil Rights Act, which also helped to allow for the passing of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which eliminated discrimination in voting practices. This has been Eyes on the Prize, episodes 3 and 4. Thank you.